No.
Wait, let me start
Wait.
that again. Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 11. Back in Bali, living here full time, a run back episode with the first human that I did a podcast with when I first went international. So Sarah, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited for today. 2.0.
Yeah, we were speaking just before the camera started rolling. How cool it is, the level up of investment from when we started to now. I feel like the first thing, of course, is the studio and the equipment, but secondary is our own self, like our own awareness, our own thought processes, our own education, our own knowledge, even in just a short period of time. Because from April to December, in the big scheme of things, isn't a lot, but I feel like when you're a conscious human that actively is working on progressing, it's a fucking long time.
I agree. I feel like I lived 15 years in like a week. I was like, how are you 2 weeks ago? I was like, I was a different human.
Yeah, well, that's why I was gone for 8 weeks, and when I said that to you, that 8 weeks for me went really long because being back in Australia wasn't my vibe, it wasn't my feeling. But then for you, it seemed like your thought process was, what, 8 weeks? It's like feel like it's been 3 or 4. 10 rapid fire questions
Let's go.
off the cusp. Number 1, never see friends or family again.
Family.
Number 2, always be late or always be really early.
Late.
Number 3, what makes you most happy?
Myself.
Number 4, live a life through envy or a life through never feeling proud.
Never feeling proud.
Number 5, only train one muscle for life. What would it be?
A physical muscle.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Any muscle.
Resilience.
Okay. Number 6, what is a fear of yours?
Fear of not living up to my potential.
Number 7, common struggle you see amongst humans.
Unworthiness.
Number 8, if you could have one task you hate make you feel really good when you do it, what would it be?
Cooking.
Number 9, are you influenced by influencers?
No.
Number 10, best part about living in Bali.
Freedom.
This is a question or a statement, but I'm going to pose it as a question to you. It's something that a lot of my coaching runs through, a lot of my personal life runs through, and it's a question that I feel like you can find the clarity for someone almost instantly based on how they respond. If you had 6 months left to live, what does that look like? That can be a long answer now.
I feel like so many people go through life and place so many limitations on themselves. So it's like, oh, I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or I don't have, whatever resource or excuse that you say to yourself. And I'm not dismissing the fact that we live in like a material world, of course. But it's like, yeah, if you actually think about if you had a shorter time frame, like you would fucking make it work. You'd pull out a loan, you would invest in that mentor, you'd go travel, you'd tell the person that you love them. Like you would do the things that scare you the most. And I had this really beautiful conversation with a client this morning. It's like, what's the difference between, real fear where it's not aligned for you or like intuition? And it's like the fear should feel exciting but scary. So it's like, what's that last 6 months of life gonna feel so exciting but like fucking scary for you? And you'd be willing to take more risks.
What would you change personally? What does it personally look like for you if you had 6 months left to live?
I feel like the only thing that I would change is travel. Everything else in my life I absolutely love and adore, like truly. But it's like I would probably I would go see the world more. Yeah.
This is such a special question to pose to a coach because we often say very impactful statements to others, and then sometimes when the question's posed on us, we embody similar traits to what the people we work with can embody too. I'm going to go on a tangent for a second. I always find coaches are very strongly opinionated on people taking risk and doing what scares them. And normally the lens that the coach is talking through is the lens of doing things that the coach does already. So, for instance, an ice bath is not scary. Going to the gym 6 days a week is not scary. Talking to someone new is not scary. Posting on social media is not scary. And so many general population individuals find those things terrifying. But in our head, it's like, well, just do it. Like, it's not scary. One of my biggest fears is heights. It terrifies me. As a young kid, I almost got blown off a cliff. Like, it's been rooted in me deep since a child. I've done many things to try and overcome it. Like, I climbed the Harbour Bridge in Sydney. I used to climb radio towers near my house, which you're not supposed to. But, 50 meters up, looking down, climbing a single ladder. But it still always scared me. And I think the important thing I've been talking a lot with people lately is it's not what you do, it's why you do it. Like, if I'm just doing something to do it, I don't think it alters or changes anything. So I went to a rock jump that I've been to before, bailed on it, gone home, didn't commit to it. And I had this thing, I was like, I really want to show up for myself and do it. I really want to stand on the ledge, not look down for too long, not talk myself out of it. So we drove there. It's like 12 to 15 meters height. It's massive for some, not that big for others. I stood there, I looked down, and I've been learning to stick to the 3, 2, 1, go. So I looked down in my head. I was like, sometimes taking a risk is just necessary. 3, 2, 1. I went, landed in the water, looked up, and felt so liberated. Oh, I got goosebumps just saying that then. That's so special. It was so liberating to look up and have that idea of I overcame my own brain telling me not to do something. So to link this back, it's easy to tell people to take risk on the things we do, but as a coach, heights are terrifying for me. But I needed to face that fear so I could put myself in the shoes of what my clients feel. And it's like, post an Instagram photo. Oh, that terrifies me. I can't. It's like, I can now relate to you because I stood on the edge of that rock jump, fucking terrified, but I did it. So it's like, it was building that resume, I call it, stacking that resume to be able to relate to humans. So linking this back to what you're saying with the take more risk. What's your relationship like with risk? Is it necessary? Is it important? How willing are you to step into risk and do things that actually aren't guaranteed to work out the way you want?
There's two pieces to this. I love how you said with your story, the why, like why it's important, because like risk, fear, like going after what you want, like it doesn't matter because it's like whatever meaning that you give it. And you're like, cool, this is stretching me. This is out of my comfort zone and I want to do it. It was like my first keynote or my first public speaking gig. I was terrified. I know my content. I know my knowledge. I know the gifts that I can give to the world. And I'm like, this is not about me. This is actually not about me. So my why is like the purpose and the mission. That's not for everyone and that's okay. But that's my own personal why. And that's what will surpass me to go after like what it is that I want to share and like give to the world. So the difference between like the fear and the intuition piece is like, is this for me? If it's not, like everything has the meaning that you give it. And I love how you said with the social media posts as well. I had a client this morning. He's like, I really want to start up my online PT business soon. So we've done a lot of inner work and we've done a lot of mindset work. And she's like, yeah, this is my purpose. This is my mission. This is what I really want to lean into. And we had a conversation this morning. I said, cool, like what is one step towards that goal that you can like start today? And she's like, I'm going to post twice this week. And that felt really big for her. But like that's her first step, which is like perfect and fine for her. And coming back to what you said about my relationship with risks, it's only if it's important to you. If it's not important to you, if it's what, you think that you should be doing, because that's what mum and dad told you, or that's the perception of what you uphold to your society. Like, it was like my old fitness business. Like, I loved it, but shutting that down was a fucking risk for me. I could lose income, I could lose clients, I could lose my brand, I could lose all of it, but I took that risk and fuck, did it pay off. It was like such an initiation for success, not only for myself, but for others.
I've been thinking of this idea since jumping off that jump rock. The difference between the word risk and actually what a risk is. Because a lot of the time, and I'll speak even for myself, but just I hear people always say, take a risk or you need to take a risk. And I always, like, there's a difference between an actual risk where there is potential good outcomes and potential bad outcomes, and then risks that's just risking who you were to become someone different. So it's going to be uncomfortable. It might not work out, but it's not going to be necessarily detrimental. So the thing that I'll relate it to was that rock jump. There's genuine risk in that where I could really hurt myself and it might not end the way I wanted to. Like it could end in a very detrimental outcome. But also it could be so liberating and so intensely growth allowing that it could be worth it. Versus the idea, for me, let's say, posting a photo for me personally, or I posted something the other week of me partying, smoking, like a montage, and there's risk in that, but it's not the same risk as things that might pay off, might not. This might have a few people talk negatively about it, but it's not necessarily going to bring a long-term detrimental outcome. Do you or have you taken any risks where the reward to potential detriment has been almost 1 to 1 or 2 to 1, or it's like very high and it's paid off highly?
The way that I see what you're saying is the emotional fear or the physical fear. So we've got like
Nailed it.
the mental emotional fear, and somatically, and what that basically means is just how our body responds
Yep.
to the emotion. So how your body feels. It's like you feel the anxiety drop in your stomach, like you feel your chest closing up, you feel your throat closing up. It's like you feel your jaw tense. It's like it's the somatic, the physical experience that we have in our body. It both feels the same. Whether you're going after your dreams and it feels
Yes.
fucking scary, or you're jumping off a cliff without any safety attached, it somatically feels the same because it's a threat to survival. The only thing that I can honestly think about is when we first caught up and I was like, I'm learning to ride a scooter. And you're like, why don't you just get on? Like, just do it. And I was just like, I don't know, I'm a baby scooter rider. I'm self-taught. That was a physical threat to me because I'm like, I'm scared that I'm going to get on the road and die. Like, as morbid as it sounds, Canggu, anybody that's been to Bali, it's chaos here. So
Mm,
learning to ride a scooter when you're literally just learning to walk, right? And it's self-taught too. So
yeah.
I took the risk, but I also like how you did the bungee jumping, you did the whole thing. I felt fucking liberated when I learned. Now it gives me complete fun and freedom, and it's very calming for me in a strange way because, humans love chaos. So that would be the only thing that I would mention around like the 1 to 1 ratio of the physical fear that we fear in our body when we go after the shit that we want to do versus the actual physical fear of like, I could physically die.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it feels the same, which is why so many people like, you see this all the time probably in fitness, right? Where people go after what they want. So like they might try to lose weight and then they binge eat and they lose weight and they binge eat. And they're in this yo-yo cycle for years. People do it all the time in business. I did it in business for years where it's like you go after it and then you pull back because you get scared and you're in this yo-yo cycle. Or you date that toxic person and you break up with them and then you go back. And it's like this yo-yo piece that humans have, what we call self-sabotage, but it's because it feels like a threat to our survival going after what we want and like why it actually feels unsafe. So I like how you said around the meaning of like, why is it so important to you? There's so many other pieces to move through this, but like everything has the meaning that you give it. So it's like, why is your business so important to you? Cool. Like, I want to make freedom and I want to make income. Like, cool. Why is that important to you? So I can eventually take care of my kids and my family. Cool. Why is that important to you? So my kids have a beautiful life. It's like actually funneling down to like why the thing is so deeply painful as to why you want it so much. It's like you're the creator of your universe. You're the one who creates the meaning behind everything that you do. And it's like you can do something for the sake of doing it, or you can do it with intention for fulfillment or to run away from pain.
I love that funneling of why.
Mm.
And that's something I use often in conversation with so many people, but I call it onion peeling. So we more often than not uh, answer a question on the surface, and then, or we might not have the answer straight away. And then you ask the question why. The question why, and repeat it over and over and over, and you'll end up finding what it is underneath. What do you think, or what from your experience as a coach, is the thing that holds people back the most? And why do you think it's so common?
Themselves.
Why do you think that's so common?
We live in a world where we have so many resources. We have so much access to any problem that we want to solve. And I personally feel, and this is my complete bias, but I just feel like a lot of people are so disconnected from themselves because we are very overstimulated. Like with Instagram, with TikTok, with YouTube, like people are glued to their phones. You look around, everyone's glued to their phone. And we just feel so disconnected from themselves. This is why so many people come to me and they're like, Sarah, I feel lost, or I feel overwhelmed, or I don't know what my next steps are, which is perfect and fine. It's a part of the evolution. But it's like we actually have a waterfall of wisdom within inside us. Like our body knows exactly what the next steps are. Like I personally believe like our soul and our evolution knows exactly what it is. This is why you feel excited around a certain topic or you feel really passionate about something. Like that's your soul being like, yes, like follow that. But we feel so disconnected and we constantly compare. We scroll through social media and we compare ourselves to everybody else's life. It's like, why can't I have that? It's like what they have. Or you'll hear a lot of the time where they say, like, I'm not where I want to be yet. It's like, cool. Do you actually know where you want to be? Or do you think that you know where you should be?
Not to simplify something you do so well, but in the short scheme of someone listening to the podcast to just spark an idea, how does someone become more connected to themselves?
It's such a huge question. The first thing that I teach women inside a relationship with self is like how to actually tune in and connect with their body. So, especially for women as well, men too, but women get so caught up in their head. It's like overthinking or worrying or feeling anxious or the negative self talk. And it's like we just get caught up in so many stories. It's like you go on a whole rampage and a whole story before like 9 a.m. and you're like, I haven't even, probably just brushed my teeth and gotten out of bed by that point, right? So many women are just caught up so much in their head. And what they try to do when they get into personal development, and I'd love to hear your side of this too, but it's like you try to intellectualize your growth. So you try to think your way through your problem. Why do I feel sad? Why do I feel this way? And then it just creates such a dissonance, like a disconnect, because you're trying to intellectualize why you felt that way when that emotion's probably been there since you were a child, but you're trying to understand. Nothing ever triggers you. It just reveals I don't like to say the word wound, but it just reveals a part of you that you don't want to look at yet, or a part of you that you call wrong, or a part of you that you call bad. So it's honestly the stories and the intellectualization, so the overthinking of why you feel a certain way, plus a lot of the technology that we have, this beautiful resource that we have in our world that creates such disconnection for women. So the first place that I would start is like, one of the first pieces that I personally do is meditation. It sounds so simple, but fuck, it truly has changed my life. And there's this beautiful thing called somatics. And what that basically means is understanding your body's needs in that exact time. So that could be, fuck, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm anxious. I'm really heightened. Cool. You're fast. You're feeling fast. It's like you're rushed, urgency, right? You're trying to tick off the to-do list. So we need to regulate. We need to come back down to calm. What does that look like? That might be a gentle walk. That might be like holding your body. That might be like deep breath, like anything to bring you down to not down in like a sad state, but down is like calm, connected, grounded, relaxed. The opposite is also true. So if you're someone who's feeling like flat or unmotivated, maybe you've got people pleasing tendencies, or you feel disconnected or you feel lost, that's where people are on what I call the cooler edge. So they feel really flat, really low, really down. They move quite slow. They're not really hungry, they eat quite slow, they're not really motivated. And this can be a really hard space for high achievers when they're so fucking used to being like go, 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 achieving like next level, and then they drop and they feel so flat and they're like, why do I feel this way? Because they're so used to being up here, right? So your nervous system like does this, like your body does this. So how do we actually move from a state where you're feeling unmotivated or flat or just really sad, move up, right? So you want to create a warmer state. So that could be like moving, that could be, my girls love dance parties. These are really basic things for you to just like come back to your body. Like I've got heaps of playlists that I just give the girls to like go have a fat dance party for 10 minutes and tell me if you're still overthinking. Like it sounds so fucking simple, but it's true. Like this is the first step. And this is a very strong opinion, but I do truly believe this is why a lot of therapy often doesn't work. Not all, there is a beautiful space for therapy, but it's because people keep thinking and talking about their problems and they keep reiterating the same story over and over and over again, because the more that you talk about your problems, the more that they're going to come to life, and the more that you're going to believe them, because a thought or a belief is just a thought that's been repeated over and over and over again. But if you break the circuit by connecting back with your body, you have a level of safety. So you hear this all the time with women who feel quite anxious, like, I just want to feel safe. I want to feel in tune with myself. I want to feel connected to myself, my body. And then that's where your intuition comes in. That's when your magnetism comes in. That's where you start feeling more confident in who you are. And then you have a clear pathway to actually go after what it is that you truly want, not what you think that you want. And that's where you actually start to feel so much more successful, so much more fulfilled, so much more confident in your life. You have so much more freedom. But the reason why people keep intellectualizing their growth is it creates a dissonance between, not to get too sciencey, but the neural pathways in your brain. When you don't feel safe, i.e. connected with your body, grounded, calm, you can't create new ways of thinking. You can't break patterns. You can't break loops, because that part of your brain is actually offline. It's like, cool, I'm just in survival. I'm just trying to I'm surviving. I'm not thriving right now. And all your body is trying to do is keep you safe. So this is why a lot of people tend to loop over and over again, because they intellectualize their growth and they don't create safety in their body first. Does that make sense?
You've changed so much since
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, so
Wow.
much.
This isn't a call out of the you in April, but
We love that version of me though.
yeah, for
It's
sure.
like your past version of you gets you to where you are today. So we love all versions of us.
I've made a post about that literally yesterday. So by the time this comes out on Saturday, it's Tuesday today. So I posted it Monday. The reason I am the way I am today is the choice of my lowest version. The lowest version of me, lacking self-worth, lacking individualism, lacking drive, motive, understanding, self-awareness. But it took that human to make the choice to allow for the human I am today. And what I was going to give credit to is you, the version I first met spoke it. The version I know now understands it.
Embodiment.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. You feel what you're speaking.
Yeah.
It's the difference between when you read something and then tell someone, like a new information I've found, hey, this is what it is, versus actually putting in the repetitions or the experiences or the moments to break it down, and now being able to explain this really intense topic to a 5-year-old. That typical saying of you don't understand something until you can dumb it down to its most simple form. I have a quote here that I stole from Chris Williamson that he quoted from someone else, which I'm not sure who it was. And I think it's so amazing to think about. The tragedy is that life needs to be lived forwards, but it only makes sense in reverse.
Oofed.
What do you think about that?
Wow. It's like you only learn through hindsight.
Yep.
And some people never learn because they never choose to see the lessons, or they never choose to see the gifts, or they never choose to see what they're gaining.
One of my most important end of year tasks I do for everyone I work with and friends and family is reflection. Because stemming from that quote, things don't make sense until you look back on it. And when you look back on it, you can really understand the role you played, the positive role you played, the negative role you played, why you maybe felt static, why things maybe didn't make sense. But just really thinking back to your past version and why you did what you did and what that can change for you moving forwards. And I'm definitely someone to put my hand up. In the past, I've been scared to look back into the past, but I don't think anything teaches you better than the past. Everyone's so fearful to dive into the person they once were or the experiences they once went through. And a lot of the time, the people at least that I talk to about this have been through hell, but there's so many gifts somewhere, not necessarily within that experience, but maybe around it, or that can blossom from that experience. What can you say to be the difference of someone who reminisces on the past versus reflects on the past as a tool to live a better future moving forwards?
May or may not like the answer. but your past, you can either choose to receive the medicine. And what I mean by that is the gifts, the lessons, the new choices that you get to make versus using the past version of you as an anchor to keep you who you are. So a lot of people say like, I don't quote unquote do trauma healing, but a lot of people are like, oh, my trauma, oh, my mum, oh, my dad, this, that. And it's like, okay, cool. I get it. That's the story. And I'm like, I fucking hear you. And I'm like, I know that you've been through some shit and that is so fine. But it's like people use that as an anchor to keep exactly where they are because humans love pain. We're fucking weird. We
The
love
rumination of their struggles.
the rumination of their struggles. They love pain. They love suffering. And I have some beautiful coach friends in the space, and I feel like they call this the victim, like the victim mentality. But I also have a really controversial opinion on like the victim, right? And everyone's like, take responsibility, don't be a victim. It's like really like strong and harsh. But the reason why the victim is because they're actually holding shame around something. And so by rejecting any part of us that we deem as wrong or bad because society has made it wrong or bad, we can't dismiss the victim of being like, oh, like my stories, my this, like, this bad thing happened to me as a child. And it's like, cool, I hear you. But it's like they have a level of shame around that. And the worst thing that you can do is tell a victim to like stop being a victim because it creates the shame cycle. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Because it's like you have this thing that you don't like about yourself. You're like, cool, I don't like how I'm shy. I don't like how I'm insecure. I don't like how I have low self-worth. I don't like how I keep going for my business and then pulling back. It's like there's something about you that you don't like that you put in a box. You're like, let's just not look at that. It's like that's just easier just to ignore. But the only way to like transcend, grow, learn, elevate through anything can actually receive like the wisdom and the gifts from your past to fucking help you grow and up level to who you are today is to actually look at what's inside the box. And as soon as you just see it, feel it, understand it, and hold space and love for it, knowing that it's not who you are, it's just a piece or a part of you. It's a story that you made up previously. But it's like we don't need to perpetuate the same shame cycle by being like, don't be a victim, take responsibility. Like, cool, you actually need to come back to your body and feel the depth of your shit, which is so scary and hard. But having a mentor, having someone hold you if there are some heavy stuff. But if it's like, cool, this is kind of annoying, I have a bit of a loop here, it's a bit of a pattern, I'm a bit tired of it, that's a really good time to just like sit with it and like look at it.
What are the surface dynamics of overcoming shame? And as, again, it's a very expansive question with so many pathways you could take, but like from your experience, what are the basics of overcoming shame? Is it going back and reliving the situation? Is it thinking about it more often so you become accepting of it? Just before you answer that, and I'm not going to list what it is, but there was an insecurity I used to have that ruled so much of my day to day. Like I was always thinking about it or reflecting on it. And it wasn't until I started to expose it or see it more every day that I just became accepting of it and then started building a complete different thought process and relationship and set of feelings with it, that I almost then was embarrassed that I was insecure about that rather than the once being embarrassed from the insecurity itself. But to link back to what you were saying, what I was asking, yeah, what are the surface level things to overcoming shame or some things people can do?
With the shame piece, I'll use myself for an example. For so long, I had, and when you say it out loud, it's like it seems so silly and so light, but because there's an emotion attached to a thought within some person, which is shame, right? But the story that we tell ourselves is attached to the shame. Does that make sense? So the story that I told myself is like, I like, what was it? Like, I'm not capable and like, I doubt myself all the time. Those were my stories linked and attached and anchored to shame. And so I would be like, I'm meant to be this like coach that helps women become confident as fucking who they are and embody their next level of success. But I'm like, I feel self-doubt. And it was like a massive, like what I call a cognitive dissonance, which means just essentially where you feel like an internal conflict. It's like a part of me wants this, but another part of me wants this. And it just feels like a disconnect. And so the only way I moved through that shame was just to somatically feel the depth of the shame. It's like, as a process that I take clients through to help them really like grow and up level. And it's like what you said with being witnessed. The only way is to be witnessed and to feel it. Like, that's the only way through. And I say this to clients all the time. Like, look, you can't go up, you can't go down, you can't go
Yes.
around it. You have to go through it.
Yes.
You have to feel the depth of that, which can feel fucking heavy, but it doesn't mean anything about you is the biggest piece. It's like, remove the story, because the story didn't matter. Like, the self-doubt and the lack of capability, the story that I told myself, completely not true. That's what I mean. I'm like, it seems so light now, but at the time, I'm like, that was heavy.
Yes.
But the story didn't matter. I just needed to feel the shame. It was just, that was the lens that I created it through. Therefore, I kept on creating experiences to validate that I'm not capable or I doubt myself. But it's actually not true. It was just the anchor of the thought, the belief, and the emotion together. But if we move the story doesn't matter. Always come back to your body. And I'm telling you, you'll be fucking years ahead of anyone that goes to therapy for fucking 10 years. That's a big statement. There's great therapists out there, but this is just a way faster way.
That flows so beautifully into the statement that is almost the compass of my life, that it's not always what you do that matters, but why you do it. And it's just, I feel like almost every problem falls under that statement itself. That if you changed your why for the things you're doing, the growth and development comes so much faster. And I'm in the field of fitness. I do lifestyle development through the vessel of health and fitness. So I'll talk about that. The idea around fat loss. The difference between my clients versus another coach's clients, both could lose 10 kilos. But the difference that I've learned is the why behind it is different, or developing a better why. Because losing fat is very simple. It is so simple. It's just thermogenic principles, and it is an application of a little bit more work or a balance of intake and outtake. But the why underneath is what's so important. And that's why, like you were talking about before with cycles, you see people forward and back, forward and back. The difference is change the why, and the forward doesn't drag you back, because a walk isn't just a walk to lose fat. It's an outlet, or it's a way to connect with yourself. Eating food isn't just for fat loss and to get there as quick as you can. It's fueling your body. It's nourishing it. It's ridding the chemicals that's in so many foods these days. Lifting weights isn't just to get jacked or to look insane. It's to get stronger, to move better, to have more self-respect. That why underneath, I don't think people lack the why. I just think they lack the understanding of the importance of the why. Because I'm still teaching the same fat loss principles as I was when I started coaching when I'm 16, but the success I owe so much to is now educating people on the why, or putting the why underneath. And I feel like that's where the development of things such as self-backing and self-respect come from. Because let's say you could have a week of doing nothing. That could be good or bad, depending on your why. If you're self-sabotaging because you've just gotten to where you want and now it's time to go back, or you're having time off because you're burnt out, you're overwhelmed, your body's sore, you need that rest, it's the exact same choice being made, but the why underneath is really different.
Yes, like intention. So you call it why, I call it intention,
Love
but
it,
it's like
yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the intention behind the action? Because there's no behavior that's wrong or bad.
Yes.
There's no behavior that's wrong or bad. Like, society just labels it and gives you a perception of it to make sense. Like, we're meaning making machines, our human brain, and we need to make meaning over everything. But it's always the reason why you do it, exactly how you say it. It's like, for me, it's like, what's the intention behind why I'm doing this? Am I doing this thing from a complete place of love? Like how you said, fueling your body, nourishing your body. Am I doing this a place from, like, I'm just trying to like fill a void and just eat, or like I'm in a rush and I just eat? It's like, where is the love or the essence behind what you're actually doing? And like how you said with the burnout piece, right? Someone could just be like, fuck, I need to go to bed. I need to like lay in bed all day. I'm so exhausted. Are you extremely unfulfilled in your career? Is that why you need to lie down? Or are you just generally been like, cool, I'm going to take a mental health day because I love myself? It's like the intention and the essence and the why behind the action is different versus what the actual thing is.
So I'm going to give my answer first, and then I'm going to pose a question to you. the overarching question would be, how do you know what the right or wrong choice is? As you said, there's no right or wrong, there's only right. But how do you validate what is actually the best call to make is a better word. And my idea of that would be stacking your resume of showing up for yourself. I did a thing recently that I told my mum that I did, and she initially was like, "Whoa, that's not like you. Like I wouldn't expect that. That's probably not the right thing to do." But then she was questioning me. Oh, okay. So why did you do it? What came from it? And then her perspective of what I told her it was changed so much because of the what's the word? The reputation of the self-respect I have.
Yeah.
So I've demonstrated to my mum over so many years, I have so much respect for myself that if I do something, she doesn't feel the stress, strain, or worry of, oh, that's the wrong thing. She instantly would feel that curiosity of, okay, like you have such a relentless respect for yourself. What good came from doing that? You did it for a reason. I know you'd never disrespect yourself. Why did you do that? And that idea of showing up, creating a aura about yourself that represents self-respect is where I feel like you can understand what the best choice is to make. Because for me to wake up super sore, super tired, super fatigued, it is of no question for me to rest that day. For others, they might feel the friction of, oh, is resting the right choice? Am I being lazy? Am I looking for the way out? Is this my old traits? But for me, it comes instantly, and it only comes instantly from repeated repetition of showing up for myself in the right setting, pushing through those frictions, saying no when I know I should say no, saying yes when I should say yes.
Yeah, how do you know so there's, like how we said, there's no right or wrong.
Yes.
There's only what's true for us individually.
Yeah.
So how do you know in a specific moment where you have a choice between, do I do this thing or do I do
Yes.
this thing? How do you know what's your truth?
Because no one has a higher sense of respect for me other than me. So I know the choice I make is the right choice to make. That has just come from repetition of saying no when everyone wants to go out, going to bed early when friends are going out late, not drinking when everyone's drinking, working on a public holiday when I could go out with everyone. It's come from just years and years of backing myself, showing up for my future self. So thinking so much about tomorrow's me, what would he appreciate, what would he admire, what would he like? That's what allows me to be so solid on my choices. So if I was to cancel this podcast today, I wouldn't feel like, oh, I canceled it because I was nervous or I'm trying to find a way out or I'm trying to avoid it. There would be a reason that I know solidly within myself it was the right call to make. And that's only come from making the right calls over and over and over. So that question then back to you. What's your...
For you, is it a feeling? Is it a knowing? Is it a thought?
It's a normality.
Yeah.
It's a normality now. It initially was, so everything, as we know, you're tuning into the Future Self podcast. Everything I've done for so long is future self. That's not living for the future and not being able to appreciate now. That's just loving the version of me tomorrow so much that I want him to thrive over the version of me today. But I love myself so much today, I still want me to thrive. So it's about making good calls for both of us. But that's come from things such as when I finished a 13-hour day of work and I'm done with the dishes and they're sitting in the sink. It's come from doing it then and there. I don't want to do it then and there. I really fucking don't. But I'm probably not going to want to do it at 3:30 a.m. before I start work at 4. It's come from doing my cardio or my weights, like doing it when I can because I don't know when I'm not going to be able to. So it's just always come from that idea of caring about myself tomorrow, that it's a default thought for me right now. Like after this, I did a run club this morning. Podcast right now, I'll edit it after. I could probably call it a day there and that's a great day. But I also have programs to write and admin to do. And my thought process is I could do it now, even though I don't want to, because I'm probably not going to want to do it on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So it's probably hundreds of thousands of choices of doing it now or doing the right thing by my tomorrow's version.
I love that because it started off with big anchors. And what I mean like that for you is the big anchors, do I go out and drink or do I stay home and meal prep? Or
Yeah.
do I, these those are big obvious choices. It's like, cool, I know it's gonna cost me tomorrow and the next week, but it's like, am I gonna make that choice? Right? But then it's like smaller choices like, cool, I'm gonna have the resilience to do my programming tonight because I want to take a half day tomorrow, or like
Yes.
I want to chill Friday afternoon, and like respecting myself enough to put in that work early. So it's like it can be the small choices or it can be like the big choices, but you have to start off with the big anchors as well. And I think what a big thing a lot of people miss is, if we're talking on the topic of like drinking and going out and drugs and like identity and all of these pieces, it's like they're still gaining something from that. They're still gaining that something from that environment for them as well. And it can be as easy to make another choice, yes. But there's also like we can't ignore the emotional charge or the emotional connection that we have to some of our choices. So for some people it's food, some people it's alcohol, some people it's drugs, some people it's scrolling. To be honest, for me it's overworking. I find it fucking way easier to work than to feel my feelings. That was a big loop for me in the past, even though it was perceived. I got a lot of praise from that. You're so hardworking, you're so resilient, so confident, this and that. But it's like on the inside, I was burning because wasn't from a place of love or respect. It was from a place of not enoughness. So it's like it's like coming back to that why, right? It's like understanding why we're doing the things we're doing, why it's important to us. And so if you're somebody who's like maybe in a stage in their life where you're like, I want to quit vaping or I'll quit smoking or I'm smoking weed or I'm going out a little bit too much or I've got these really beautiful dreams and I'm still doing these habits and behaviors that just aren't serving me. If I was you, I would get really curious around, cool, disgustingly honest truth. What am I gaining from going out and doing that? So, say for example, when I was, I haven't drank in a really long time, but when I drank a little bit more, I was probably about 21, 22. Um, and then I moved to the Gold Coast and I said, like, I don't want to be in that scene anymore. But I realized at the time I was gaining love and connection, going out with all your friends, you dress up, you feel good, you feel hot, you're getting validation from men, right? So that's significance. That's an unconscious need that every human needs. Like every human needs to feel significant. It's normal and everyone loves validation. Like it's fine. Let's not make it wrong. So it's like those are the two things that I was gaining from going out. And I was also gaining play. So the third thing, I was gaining fun, play, excitement. It's like uncertainty. Uncertainty is another unconscious natural need that all humans need. A bunch of amongst of other things, but to stay on topic. When I moved away from like the drinking scene or the partying scene, when I'm like, I really just want to work on myself. I'm like, I want to go in my healing era. I'm like, I want to learn to love myself so deeply. And so I was like, cool, if I'm gaining fun and I'm gaining play and I'm gaining connection, where else in my life can I gain that
Yes.
feeling?
Yeah.
So I found other groups of where I wanted to be friends. So I went to breathwork circles. I went to like sober dance parties. I went on Facebook groups. I talked to people at the gym. Like I made connection. I do have the confidence to go out to speak to people. I understand that's friction for some, but I put myself in environments where it's going to serve me for connection and love. What I was gaining from going out drinking. Cool. If I wanted to have more play, I went out and bought a hula hoop and I started like hula hooping just like at the beach. I had so much fun. Like these little pieces, it's like, where can I get that same feeling? It's like, cool, I'm binge eating or I'm drinking too much or I keep sabotaging my business or I don't feel worthy. Cool. What are you actually gaining from that behavior or that habit that you don't like that's fucking you up?
So then here's the thing with that whole topic and dynamic, because you said everything has a cost and there's a reward, right? So you'd go out and you'd have the friendships, that's the reward. But then you just listed things with lesser of a cost with a similar reward. So I'm not posing this at you, it's your perspective of it. How would you be able to validate going out for the reward of friendship when you could do something that has less of a cost that still gives friendship and connection? So being that drinking, clubbing, partying, you're with friends, you're fulfilling that internal connection, validation, and those ideas, but at the cost of maybe the expense of tomorrow and the day after, or self-respect, or those things. Or you could go to a breathwork or a run club, meet people, connect with people, same positive connection outcome with lesser of a cost. There's no expense tomorrow and negative onflow. So, like, how would you validate that the going out aspect is a worthwhile choice when the same fulfillment that comes from that you can get elsewhere with less of the expense.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, like, yeah, again, it comes back down to choice and intention as to like why you're doing it. Again, like, drinking's not wrong or bad.
It's not what you do,
Mm.
it's why you do it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No, it's so
it's
true.
such a great statement what you just said before that. Drinking is not bad. And through my own doing, I've now created a persona that I'm anti-drinking, advocate against alcohol and fun police and all these things. I don't have an issue with people drinking at all. It's why you do it. It's that
Mm.
same idea. Oh, I do it to see this person. So you have a friendship that's tied over a substance. I do it to feel this feeling, or I do it because I've had a big week, or I do it to escape this. It's like if you're going out because you love the taste of alcohol, that's fine. If you're going out because it's an amazing scenery and it's a vineyard, that's fine. Like, yeah, I love that statement runs so much for me. It's not what you do, it's why you do it.
It's like you can have a present glass of like red wine with your partner on the couch, or you can down the whole bottle.
Yeah, or if you're having that glass of red wine because today was stressful, that's where I feel like those ideas aren't great. So I work with some mothers and they express, oh, I just have a glass of wine at the end of the day because today the day was so stressful. That is so different from I actually really love red wine and I'm exploring all these different brands and flavors and textures, or maybe it's something you can bond over something with. You can bond with someone over, sorry, which is still isn't the most ideal thing. But yeah, that idea of a glass of wine to wind down, to calm, to escape, it's like that's not good because we all know band-aids. They don't fucking last. They might stop some things from happening, but the wound or the cut underneath and a physical stent still needs to heal. And slapping a band-aid on it isn't going to heal it.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's coping. It's still coping. And a lot of people find it really hard to look inwards. But honestly, fuck, having a coach and having a mentor is like, it's truly like changed my life, right? And that's the difference between like a PT who just counts reps and gives
Say that all the
macros,
time.
which is perfect and fine, right? Like, I was in fitness for 6 years before I pivoted to doing like inner work, mindset, self worth. Before, it's like there's a difference between that and actually becoming a coach, because
Yes.
there's a coach is embodied. So like you're embodied in what you give to other people. And it's like people see you and they're like, I want what he has somehow. So it's like the embodiment of how you said the feeling and the essence before of like who you are. So you can actually give that to other people, but it's like getting them to understand their why. That's a whole leadership question. But yeah, you can't ignore the deeper feelings that are there, because it's kind of like a beach ball, right? Like you go to the beach and you've got this huge arch beach ball and you're like, cool, I'm going to go in the water. I've got this beach ball. It's going to be fun. But your beach ball represents the emotions. And so you get the beach ball and you try to push the beach ball underwater. You're like, oh, I just don't want to look at that thing. I just won't look at it. I won't see it. If I just push it underwater and I can't see it, it's like the problem's gone, right? It's so easy. But only takes a matter of seconds before the beach ball is going to pop up. It's going to hit that kid in the face. It's probably going to bounce back. He's going to throw it back at you. And that beach ball is probably going to hit that old lady in the corner as well. And that's you projecting your emotions onto everybody else. So if you want a safe, loving relationship, if you want to feel healthy within your body, if you want to love yourself and your body, have self-respect, like you said, if you want to have a thriving business, we can't be projecting our stuff onto other people, which is why I believe if you want success, if you want to be a beautiful leader, if you want to be confident, if you want to be healthy, doing the work first so then you can lead from the forefront.
It is just that the idea that the work's unavoidable. You know, you can't get to where you want to be without doing the work at face value. You can't learn to love yourself without learning why you don't love yourself in the first place. You can't learn to back your choices without understanding why you don't have that self respect and that self backing in the first place. You can't keep weight off until you understand why it keeps coming on. You can't have a thriving, flourishing routine until you understand why you care so little to be consistent for yourself. It is natural to want the fastest route to get there. It's just not possible. And every coach is going to have their own opinion. My personal opinion is I think self respect overrules completely. If you have a respect for yourself, it's going to get you to the point and position you want to be. If you're a coach around mindset, you're going to learn more, experience more, and show up as that person. If you want to have a good body, you're going to get that good body. If you want to work the job you love, not the job you hate, you're going to do that. I think for me personally, in terms of a pyramid and everything trickling down, or a tree and the roots trickling down, self-respect for me is at the top. And that's what's changed so much for me. Once I started learning on that consistent exposure to self-respect, everything else started flowing with it, like routine, work ethic, self-opinion, self-view, all of those things.
How you view self-respect is how I view self-worth. It's like, I'm so deserving and fucking worthy of this because I love myself so much. It's like the language is different,
Yes,
but it's like
I
the
love it.
pyramid.
Yes. It's so, this is what's been so special for me being in Bali and talking to so many other coaches is the fundamentals, they're all there. Like the base dynamics are all consistent across the board, but the language is different, or the approach is different, or the ideas around it are slightly different. But the idea of self-respect or self-worth, it's still the same energy ball, but it's just you take that opinion or perspective from it, and I take that opinion and that perspective from it. But so many of the things that I thought were individual about my thoughts and me, which are because I think of them in different ways, but they're relatable to other coaches and other humans because they are thinking the same thing, but in a different way. So it's like the sun and the moon type. It's almost like a day and night type, yin and yang. Like it's a similar thing, but there's just a different presence about it. But the outcomes are still relatively similar across the board. What's one question, piece of advice, or thought into that camera that you want my listeners to have, think, or ask more often?
You don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. You manifest who you are. Self-respect or self-worth.
Yeah, that's the be, do, have, or have, do, be.
Yeah, it's the identity and embodiment of who you are.
Yes.
It's like, cool, no matter what happens in my life, like I always know that I'm fucking successful. I always know nothing, and I say this to my clients all the time. It's like nothing external of you gets to tell you who you are. If you're showing up, if you're taking the action, you know that you respect yourself, you feel worthy of it. You've done the inner work to get to that place where you've cleared out all the stories that you've told yourself your whole life and you've made your truth. This is why it's like you said, we have the same energy ball, but it's like, it's universal truth. It's truth. It just is manifested differently through different language, if that makes sense. So it's like you have your way of expression, I have my way of expression, but it's both universal truth. Nobody is right or wrong or better or worse. It just is, right? So it's like you will manifest, you will create, you will embody the identity of who that you say that you are, not what you think that you want.
I'm going to link Sarah's socials, podcast, page, all that down in the description. It was such a pleasure to run this back. Like it was not in a way of recycling what we spoke about. And I think I said this to you the first time and you questioned me on it, but I almost can look at the version of you and I in April as our little, or my little sister and brother. Like that they're just a version that was killing it at the time. And I know in the future, I'm going to think the same thing about me right now, but it's just so special to know I can look back at the version of you and the version of me and just know so much growth, change, and difference has come from this year. But that's episode 11, last episode for the year. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fuck yeah.
I agree with that so much. Hey.